I don't think there's any other club in the world that can make previous players, once they return to play against us, look like Lionel fucking Messi. It's the Nottingham Forest match vlog, Newcastle fans. Do us a favour, I don't want to ruin your Christmas, but if you want to, stick around. Welcome back to Black White Banter, you lovely Newcastle fans, and a Merry Christmas to all. I hope everyone had a fantastic day yesterday. Plenty presents from the fat man down the chimney, plenty turkey, plenty pigs in blankets, although I do think they're a little bit overrated. That's my controversial Christmas opinion. Plenty beers, plenty time with the family, and just loved every moment and didn't let that Luton game ruin it too much. Newcastle fans though, if you are new around here, give me a little late Christmas present, and it's a very easy one. It won't cost you anything, don't worry. Little likey Lou goes a very long way to get this video in front of maybe a couple more eyes. If you like my opinion by the end of this and you didn't mind this match vlog, whack that subscribe. There'll be a lot more to come in the new year, including a certain game on January the 6th that does not need any introduction. No prizes for guessing which football match I am talking about. So I'm at my mum and dad's for Christmas, so I'm very, very lucky to be getting picked up from some friends of mine just up the road to go up in the car, because there's obviously no public transport on Boxing Day. And guess how I know those lovely friends of mine? Through supporting Newcastle. That's the great thing about this community that is Geordies and the Toon Army. You meet people who are friends for life, and I'm very, very lucky to be jumping in with them. I've got a couple of cans to enjoy on the way up on the car journey. Hopefully there's no Boxing Day traffic getting in the Metro Centre. And on a more serious note, on a football basis, I said I didn't let that Luton match ruin my Christmas. It did leave a bit of taste going into Christmas Eve. It wasn't good enough. It was poor. We need a reaction today. Our Boxing Day record, generally apart from last year when we won, is not very good, and I'll get into that later in this video. It's really, really poor. But our home form cannot be ignored. 7 wins in a row. We could make it 8 today against the Nottingham Forest team who are struggling. Let's face it, they are. They might have a bit of bounce back, which I'm worried about from Mr. Nuno, who's just come in, which is a bit of a surprise appointment for me. I know Steve Cooper was a controversial one. We need some points on the board. We need a reaction. Eddie Howe was fuming. I was fuming. Every fan that travelled was fuming. Every fan watching at home was fuming. But I hope the players were fuming as well. We seem to be carrying the players. I don't know what the home away form thing is. But without further ado, well, I did want my parents to get in this video, but they're a little bit camera shy. But my dad's given us a 3-1 prediction, Newcastle. Hope his predictions are a little bit better than his Christmas dinner. His Christmas dinner cooking. Yeah, I'm getting the daggers. I better wrap this one up. Right, without further ado, I'm going to get me coat on, get in the car and get this festive match day underway. How are you, man? Right, we're just in the car. Just brought a couple of cans for the... Well, not a couple of cans for the driver, of course. Right, let's get into these predictions straight away. You've just wanted a couple of minutes to think about your predictions. What are we going for today?
Going for very nervy first half, 0-0. Second half we'll scrape it with a late scrappy goal.
Oh, so basically nervy and scrappy. Just what you want to hear on a Christmas. Merry Christmas. Who's going to score?
Callum Wilson.
Ooh, I would take that, which would be his 20th in the calendar year, which would be the 3rd player to do so for Newcastle in the calendar year in the Premier League. So that would also be very nice. Just last game of the calendar year. And we've just been talking all things football. Nottingham Forest, new manager coming up, 2nd game in charge. Is that going to play a factor today or not?
Yeah.
That new manager bounce?
Yes, it will. That's why I think it'll be nervy and scrappy. They'll be up for it. They'll be trying to show him what they're capable of. Looking on paper, we've got some decent players there. If they click today, it could be a long afternoon. And just away from football, day after Christmas Day, any presents worth of note? Any new boxer shorts, new socks, new... No? No.
So Santa was not good. Santa was not good in this household. Right, yeah, we're not too far off. I'll get some more predictions when I get out the car, when I don't have to fling my phone around left, right and centre awkwardly. We're not too far off. Couple of cans in the car. Confidence. We good at home. Let's get into these. Right, we've just landed in Latoon and it's time to get some more predictions. Right, are you going to go a bit more confident than your dad, Jamie? Or?
Yep, I'm going to go 5-1 Newcastle, Isak hat-trick.
Isak hat-trick, 5-1. I don't know whether he's still drunk from maybe the Baileys he was drinking last night, but I will take that. And we'd all forgotten that Chris Wood's back. Chris Wood is back at St James's. Is he going to get the one?
Yeah.
We'll clap him. He's going to score when it's 5-0. And Casey,
Still
you
haven't got a
getting
shot.
some predictions on this one?
We'll go 2-0.
2-0, first scorer.
Botman header.
Ooh. Right, so it's a clean sweep. I'm going to go for, because I've actually done a match preview, because I could not be bothered on Christmas Day. I'm going to go for 3-1. And Isaac, yeah, I think Isaac looked sharper against Luton than what he's looked in the previous 3 or 4 matches. That's what I'm going to go for. Just want to St James Park. On that note, team news did come in pretty much as you'd like. There's no Livramento in the starting 11, which annoys me a little bit because I don't think that kid has done anything wrong in the slightest to be on the substitutes bench. He really hasn't. He's looked absolutely class. I don't think Dan Burn was necessarily needed in this match as much as what he maybe was at Luton. So that's a little bit frustrating, but Wilson's on the bench. That's a good impact. I think that worked great last season, Wilson coming off. I think it always gives him a bit of a spring in his step, and he maybe's needed a rest as well because he's only just come back from injury himself. Of course, Chris Wood is in the Forest team, of course he is, so that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Townsend scored on Saturday. You wouldn't bet against him, would you? There's been plenty of jokes about him since his time at Newcastle. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen. I'm still confident, because why would any Newcastle fan not be confident with our home form? Let's get up to St James's Park now. About an hour till kick-off, just under. Away, Eddie Howe's festive mags. Just arrived outside St James's Park. I tell you what, there's a bit of an atmosphere of hangovers. Shearer's Bar sounds quiet. I haven't heard one chant so far from any of the beer gardens that I've walked past. You know, people are pulling themselves round from the pigs in blankets, the drinks till 1 o'clock in the morning. People have to drive because there's no public transport. It's not a very good day for a 12:30 kick-off, and it's not a very good day for a home game. So I'm curious to see what it's like inside St James's. Team news has come out, as I was just talking to Jamie and Casey about. Chris Wood's in for Nottingham Forest. Let's see how quiet we can keep him. We do know his game, but he also knows us. Livramento, I would have liked to have seen him on that right-hand side. I really, really would have. Hey, Eddie Howe knows best. Not a bad little player to bring on. If Dan Burn maybe looks a little bit tired at left back, we need a little bit more going forward, and I'm excited to have Wilson and Isaac rotating off the bench. A little bit more needed from Gordon from what we saw at Luton, and let's just put that awful performance today behind us. But before we get in the stadium and get screwed by digital ticketing, let's get into some Christmas festive black and white banter stats. Stats. We're going to start and get the worst one out of the way. No team in football league, English football history has lost more games on Boxing Day than Newcastle. We have the worst record in the country. Whether that's because the players just fill themselves with cans of Fosters and too many pigs in blankets on Christmas Day, who knows? But that is not a good one to read going into a home game today in the sunshine. Fingers crossed. We did win last season at Leicester comfortably. Hopefully that one is not made even worse today. Newcastle have never actually lost a Premier League game to Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. We've lost obviously in League Cup matches and you name it, Championship games. We've never lost in the Premier League. 1-7, drawn 3. Let's hope today is 1-8, drawn 3, and that unbeaten Premier League record continues. And lastly, because it's the last game of 2023, Callum Wilson needs 1 goal today if he comes off the bench to get 20 in the calendar year and be only the 3rd Newcastle player to do that. I'm rooting for him. Records are great for strikers. I know they are. I know they like to get them and put them in their bank. I really hope it's his last chance to get that. I'll be rooting for him when he comes on. Oh, Callum, son, let's get that record under the belt. Right, I'm going to get up to St James's Park now and obviously see digital ticketing ruin my Christmas because I'll be stood in the queue for 20 minutes and not able to get a pint. Honestly, it's the Scrooge of Christmas is digital ticketing. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So my rants about that will continue. Are we there? Half time, it would be wouldn't it? Townsend on Saturday just gone. Literally, it's always in the script. Perez has scored here in the past, in more recent years. Chris Wood, he's done nothing the whole match. Injury time pops up from a yard out. It was a poor goal to concede. It really was. Every defender went to the ball and he left him in acres of space to just tap it in. He will not score an easy goal. That was disappointing. There's a couple of fans just having a pint there in the queue, said that we've dominated that first half. Yeah, we've dominated the ball. It's all well and good having lots of the ball, but if you don't create chances and test the goalkeeper, it's pointless. And we haven't. Penalty, great turn from Isaac, bottom corner, lovely to see him score. 1-0, cracking. We haven't done much else. Lots of good crosses into the box, lots of positive moments, but in terms of we should have scored that, we haven't created very much at all. We haven't. Longstaff, I don't think Longstaff looks comfortable down the left of that 3. I think he's always been more suited to the right, but obviously we're trying to accommodate Miley a little bit, who I think's had a really good half. Isaac still looks isolated for me up front. We've got the intensity back. Why we're not seeing that away from home, I don't know, but we've got the intensity back, and that's been good to see. Energy, press, what we know Eddie Howe likes to see, but we haven't created enough. And then obviously Nottingham Forest have had a couple of sniffs and they get the equaliser. Big half from us. Almiron, we don't like to keep talking about him, not good enough in that first half. That right foot, he may as well be disabled with one leg. He may as well literally only have one leg. I don't think he'd be able to qualify as a Premier League footballer if he did only have one physical, visible leg. But that's what he plays like, and there's been too many occasions when he refuses to use it, and it's under the microscope at the moment, and rightly so for me. I've been saying it for months. On to the second half we will. Colin Wilson on the bench, Livramento, harsh not to be in the team. You've got to be looking to bring him on off something from full back. I'm still confident. Away the lads. Right then, just travelling back now, and the one stat before we get into anything that I've just been informed of by Jamie, who's in the back. I don't know whether he's head. There's the floating head. Chris Wood, in 20 games for Newcastle at St James's Park, only scored 1 goal. He scored 3 in 15 minutes for Nottingham Forest. So if that doesn't sum up what is, almost feels like a curse. I don't know whether it happens to other teams that ex-players come back and hurt them as much as what it seems to be with Newcastle. But Chris Wood is another one just to stick on that very long list, probably as long than Santa's list. It wasn't very good today. Where do we start with that one? To sum up first, and then we'll divulge a little bit more into moments.
Well, we've obviously got to be disappointed. Half control the game in the first half. Nearly went in at half-time, 1 up, and I think the game would have been totally different in the second half. Summing up the full game might help us in terms of we might be able to get the players in that we need early in the transfer window to give these guys a rest.
Bit more pressure from the boardroom in that sense as well.
Yeah, they're going to look, aren't they? They're going to look and they're going to think, right, what can we do to help Eddie Howe? He's got players come back. You look at Sven Botman today, Rolls Royce. Not today. I think he's still getting back up to speed. Looks as though him and Shad never even met each other before today. So, just one of them, isn't it?
Jamie Harden in the back predicted 5-1. Didn't quite. You did predict a hat trick though, just not at the other end, not at the right end. Second half, they obviously score with Chris Wood scoring what looked like pretty much a messy dink around the defender and then a dink into the bottom corner above Dubravka. We never really got going again after that, did we?
No, but one thing I will say is I did predict Chris Wood to score, just not 3.
So you got a hat trick and you got Chris Wood to score.
Nobody
so you were somewhere along the line
to score 3 in the same game. So
no.
Be forgiven for thinking that.
What went wrong in the second half when we were chasing the game?
Nobody took a grip of the game and got us going. I think we needed a bit of steel in midfield. 17-year-old Lewis Miley was probably our man of the match again.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we needed experience in there. I don't think Longstaff was up to speed today. We just couldn't keep the ball. Every time we got it, Forest were round us, hassling us, which is what we did to them in the first 10-15 minutes, and it worked. But we dropped off.
See, I thought Lewis Miley playing on the right hand side. Sort of Longstaff wasn't sacrificed, but he was played on the left of that 3. to compensate for Miley, and I thought Longstaff didn't look the same, because you know we know how much Longstaff contributes to Almeida and Trippier, then little triangles and passes down the right hand side. Think that's fair, or?
Yeah, I do. I think Bruno was good in the middle again today, though, but Longstaff was missing the first half.
And Eddie Howe's substitutions and his changes in the second half.
I think Byrne for Livramento for Byrne needed to be done at half time. I think Byrne was way out of his depth today. Livramento has actually been one of our better players over the last couple of weeks again through the injury crisis, and now he's found himself on the bench, which I think is also very harsh. So I think Howe will look at himself and think he's slightly to blame, but
say what you want, that wasn't good enough, and that's 2 videos now in a row, Luton included. You know, Fulham, we got back to winning ways. 7 losses out of the last 8, where it's another video where I'm saying not good enough. And there comes a point where I am quite positive, because we are on this journey, and I do have faith in our manager, and I've got a lot of faith in this group of players, where you can only just keep saying not good enough for so long without sitting down a little bit closer. And I will on videos across the Christmas break. I don't have much else to be doing. We don't play again until New Year's Day, where I analyse things a bit closer. But there has to be questions asked from lots of different departments today. That defending today for me was not good enough in the slightest. It wasn't. We were so exposed. As we talked about in the car, Sven Botman, Rolls Royce of a player, one of our best signings that I can remember for a very long time. Him and Shea today look like they hadn't played together for a very long time. And they haven't. And maybe that's exactly what the issue was today, but for us to be exposed with simple balls over the top. And I haven't watched the highlights back yet, so I'm not going to talk too much about some of the second half goals. I watched the first half equaliser back on the screens, but the second and the third, Chris Wood looking prime Lionel Messi from where I could sit, but really poor defending in the build-up. We were really heavily exposed between midfield and defence, which has been a problem in the past. At the start of the season it was, but then Longstaff came back in the team and that got shored up a little bit. Joe Linton came back into form and that shored that up, and it was nice to see Joe Linton back in the side. I've got no doubts he will have to come back in. I don't think Longstaff on the left of the 3 worked today. It really didn't. I've been saying for a very long time I think he's integral, but Eddie Howe has to have questions asked of him, which is fine. No manager's going to manage a football club without fans asking questions from time to time when the pressure's on a bit more. Where that sort of plan B is, that's where my biggest concern in recent games has come. Luton was a really below par performance, but Eddie Howe refuses to change from this very, very rigid front 3, midfield 3 formation. And I'm not saying go to a very old school 4-4-2 by any means, but there has to be a way with some of the players, adaptable players we have. Eddie Howe's number 1 priority in a player is versatility. Players who can cover so many different positions and do it to a decent standard. But what I'm not seeing is any way. I mean, you know, I'm not suggesting 4-4-2. Wilson and Isak, would that not work down the middle? Two strikers a little bit more central, playing off each other. Isak, to me, looks like a player who's very isolated, but I'm not going to get into that. Eddie Howe's the man who we all have faith in, and I certainly do. He knows way more than me, but we are very, very rigid in what we are doing. Very, 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 very one way or the highway. And yes, that intense style is working, but teams are going to find it out when you do not mix things up at all. And our reliance on Anthony Gordon to make things happen is bubbling more and more to the surface with every game that passes. And when Anthony Gordon looks a little bit tired, we don't create chances. Our lack, we might be high on the XG in this modern world we live in, the XG on, you know, potential goals that we should have. We might be top of that table, but goalkeepers are coming to St James's Park, and yes, we've won 7 games out of 8. I'm not forgetting about that. But in matches, generally speaking, we do not shoot on goal. We don't. We play this ticky-tacky style around the box. It worked for Isak's penalty with a lovely little deft touch from him. But I would just like to see us test goalkeepers more. You have to shoot to score. But that wasn't the problem today. It wasn't. We were in control in the first half, as bland as I thought we were. It's all well and good passing the ball about, but we didn't do very much with it. 1-0 penalty, right. There only looked one team winning that football match. Nottingham Forest were feeding off a couple of half chances. They equalise. That changes the half-time team talk. It really does, as we were just talking about in the car. The second half, sloppy goals conceded. Not much at the other end. We huffed and we puffed and we just looked like we fell out of ideas. I don't agree with Eddie Howe when he brought the players on that he did where he played them. I thought Livramento would have been better served down the right-hand side with Trippier. Dan Burn, I don't think Nottingham Forest in the second half we're going to see too much that we're joy down that right hand side to maybe hook Dan Burn off. Just put Livramento in a more attacking position when we chase in the game and see how that pans out. Callum Wilson was always going to come on, but he barely got a touch of the ball. And we just looked a little bit lacklustre. There's a lot of different factors that could be contributing to why Newcastle's form is the way it is right now. History tells us that teams who've played the first Champions League season normally drop off the next year. I'm not discrediting that. Our injury list, if you think who we would have available to test and push other players, it's mental. Murphy for the right-hand side, Anderson for central midfield, Tonali for central midfield, Barnes for Gordon on that left-hand side. The list goes on and on and on. And again, we're not going to go back to injuries or off fatigue because every team's dealing with that and they're managing to win football matches. But what I worry about from that is a level of complacency. And I talked about it after the Luton game. The fact we have not seen the reaction that I expected after Eddie Howe was really angry after that awful, dire Luton performance worries me that these players' motivation is not quite there. I think if everyone had the motivation today of what maybe Bruno did, the result would have been a bit different because he always at the moment seems to be up for it and trying to drive us forward, even if it's not always working for him. Lewis Miley, you know he plays with his heart on his sleeve, and I think every game is a FIFA match for him on his PlayStation. He looked really good again. I do think he will drop out the side now that Joe Linton's back, but he probably doesn't deserve to. Bright future ahead, and fair play to that. He was really good today. Isolated in attack, poor in defence, and if you look at our fixtures coming up, we've got Liverpool and Villa our next two in the league, and the small matter of Sunderland away. And I tell you what could be our only saving grace is that Beale has come into the Sunderland job. They're not very happy with him. They're not very happy with the board because the last match, if you're an overseas fan watching this and you don't think the derby means that much to you, I get it. Why would it? You've got no reason to really hate a team that you've never been a neighbour to when you've never lived in this country. But this match, trust me, means everything to this city and the North East and to Newcastle fans. We need to go into that. Regardless of what the result is in the Liverpool game where we'll be expected to get beat, we need to go full tilt in that match and then build from there. We've got a January transfer window coming round that could be really well timed. If this result helps us bring in a couple more players, then so be it. But I'm not going to lie, I'm normally as positive as can be. I said before this match we 2 points off Man City, which gave us a lovely little dollop of perspective going into this Forest match. That's our home form ended. Because our away form's so bad, it puts more of a spotlight on us winning football matches at home. We've played there today pretty much in the second half, pretty as poorly and defensively wise as what I've seen in our poor away form as well. So that's a concern with really tough matches to come. Try and stay positive, Newcastle fans. Don't turn on the manager, please. He is a manager going through transition. He's never managed in the Champions League. He just needs to ask himself a few questions. I think it's fair to say after that, and I really hope he is with regards to work. And like we saw in America in the pre-season when he tried three at the back, maybe mixing up formations and the way he adapts our team depending on who we play and when things aren't going right, because I'm not seeing that in this Newcastle team at the moment. Has it ruined me Christmas? Well, I'm going to see how the turkey sandwiches taste to answer that one. We've seen worse Newcastle fans, haven't we? We really have. And if we win the derby, I'm not going to say we're going to get a result at Anfield because I don't think we will. But if we win that derby, we build from there in January, maybe a couple of players to come in. We go. I do still think we're going to have a better second half of the season with players coming back. I really, really do. And I'm going to stick by that statement. Keep the faith, Newcastle fans. Sorry, this has been a bit of an up and down match. I didn't have time to speak to fans after the match because I had to dart straight back with the very generous friends of mine who give us a lift up to the game from my mum and dad's. Sorry it was a bit jittery with me storage issues in the car, but if you've liked it, you probably haven't because we got beat. Whack that like, whack that subscribe, and I'll do a last word video to summarise where I think maybe that went wrong in a bit more detail. And as always, try and keep the faith. Away the lads!